Hello and welcome to the Calmcast, a time to feel calm and think clearly. I'm Claire Downham, the Queen of Calm, a transformational life coach. I was a burnt out head teacher who finally made the journey to calm after years of trying, and I want to prevent you from having to do the same. The Calmcast is a series of short explorations, gently guiding you back to your natural state, which is calm and clarity. Just listen like you would listen to music, with an open mind and curiosity. There's nothing else to do. Now let's relax into today's episode. So today I'm considering or helping you to think about managing the future, which is in its even just by saying it is an oxymoron, isn't it? It's not a thing we can actually do. That's just come to me as I started recording this, because we can't manage something that doesn't exist. It's like, if you were a manager of people, it's like you trying to manage leprechauns or something. Now, I mean, maybe you believe leprechauns do exist, but you can't, if you're trying to base your staffing strategy on your management of leprechauns, then you probably become a cropper. It is like managing leprechauns. That it doesn't exist. It's not there. But of course, we convince ourselves that it is. That's the first thing, isn't it? And I was an absolute corker for this, quite frankly. I remember once, or probably more than once actually, if I'm honest, that my ex-husband was late home from work. And I literally had gone so far into the future that I was in the process of trying to find the life insurance policy because I convinced myself that something had happened to him. So then I was scaring myself with what would I do without him. And so then I was like starting to practically trying to manage that by checking I knew where the insurance policy was. And of course, then 10 minutes later, he walked through the door and he'd just been stuck in traffic and, hadn't been able to tell me that. But isn't that, that's just, when I think about that now, I just think, goodness gracious, what were you thinking? But of course, at the time, that made perfect sense. I couldn't have done anything else in that moment because that was what made sense to me. And it wasn't just that one occasion, I'm confessing here. It was many, many times that I managed to wind myself up to the point where I was really trying to sort out something that really didn't need sorting out because it didn't exist. So that this is what we're doing in our attempts to manage the future. We're going into the future first of all and creating some kind of horror story about what we think is going to happen. How that's going to impact us, how we're going to, especially we like to make up how we're going to feel about the thing that's going to happen. And it's really, I'm noticing more and more how that is just such a story about, if this works like this, I'm going to feel like that. If it turns out like that, I'm going to feel like this. These things are going to make me happy in the future. These things are going to make me upset in the future. And noticing how present moment joy is obliterated by that, but that wonderful feelings are available from presence. My most recent experience was creating something to share in my business, almost by accident, because I wanted a means to share something with my client, and then I'd created something that I was just really happy about and excited about, but I didn't even intend to make it in the first place. But anyway, back to the scary futures that we tend to create, because that tends to be, I think it's fun to look in the future and get excited about something that's coming up, but not to the point where we think we must make that happen, otherwise we're not going to be okay. That ends up being a similar kind of scary future story. So whatever we're making up about the future, Making up is the word. We are making it up. And then what we do then is we go into the future, into this story that we've created, and we imagine how we're going to feel. And if it's not good, then we consider how to reassure ourselves, how to make ourselves feel better, how to work out how we're going to handle it, what that's going to be like. Will I be sad when this happens? How will I console myself? How will I make myself feel better? And also we do this reassuring that you're going to be okay, even if this really terrible thing you've imagined is going to happen. It happens. You're going to be okay, and but of course, that all that does is add to the confusion that is already there. Because the confusion starts the minute we step into the future. And my favorite, one of my favorite kind of metaphors around this is, that if we could go into the future and grab an app from even probably 5 years' time and try to run it on our phones right now, our phones would just not be able to run that app at all, because that app would be from the future. And it's the same. It's like we're trying to put something into this space that does not belong there and therefore creates confusion for us. And then we go off and try and reassure ourselves. And what's happening there is that this idea of the future has been created from our conditioned mind, from our beliefs, from our ideas about how life works and what life is likely to be like in the future. That's where it comes from. But it's then the same conditioned thinking doing the reassuring. And that's why what it creates then is an extremely busyness in our minds, in our heads, busy overthinking, which of course, and a lot of this thinking is fear. So I feel it I remember for me, it used to be like, oh, I'm really scared by something. Oh, look, oh, hang on, I could do this. Oh, it might not be so bad. No, but actually that might not work. And then you go to scary again. And then you're trying to reassure yourself and you go into scary again, you reassure. And then there's this stacking up of the fear, which then feels terrible. And that is what anxiety feels like. Can reach the point where there is panic. Because of course, at the same time, we're trying to manage the anxious feeling as well. That's come into our bodies in the present moment because we're thinking about the future, and no other reason, not because the future's real. So what is there to do about this? Well, absolutely nothing, which is not very helpful, is it? But I mean, for me, like trying to manage that, trying to make it go away was fruitless. However, now there is something, because there's just pure understanding of what I've just described to you and how that system is working. Because from this place of understanding, there is possibility, there is space. When we start to see how something works, it just works better. And so the most important thing is to understand what your feelings are telling you. Your feelings are not telling you that something in the future is bad and that's true. Your feelings are telling you that you're making up a story about the future. And that actually what's really happening inside you is a bit of like a malfunctioning, really, because human beings don't work in the future, like the app that wouldn't work on my phone if it was made in 2051. I don't know. Will we have apps on our phones in 2051? Where our phones, it will be like wired into our heads, won't it? Anyway, let's not scare ourselves with that. But it's like that. There's like a malfunctioning happening, and then we're trying to appease ourselves with the same malfunctioning thinking. The feeling in the moment that you are feeling in your body is information. It's information to let you know that your thinking is off, that you have gone into a daymare, that you are, and that's where the feeling is coming from. And in the knowing of that, there is something transformational happens, because then we don't need to go and start managing the scary story of creating. We don't need to go off in the future and trying to work out how we're going to handle it, because there's a realization and a falling away. And that might not happen straight away. It might happen later. It might happen afterwards. But wherever it happens, when you realize that that feeling is coming from thought in the moment, and only thought in the moment, and only ever thought in the moment, that is your system tapping you on the shoulder and just letting you know you've gone off into a story. And that's what's transformational. That's what creates the space. And then there can be an exploration. There can be some curiosity about the story that's been put in place there. Enjoy. Thank you so much for listening. There's nothing to do now but bring some awareness to how this is working out in your life. Listen regularly to experience longer and longer periods of calm. This has been the Calmcast with Claire Downham, Queen of Calm. Take care and keep listening.